Frank. What's the weirdest thing you've ever saw in here?
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Hey, we gonna party tonight or what?
Yeah, we are gonna party.
Well, where are we gonna party?
I don't know, somewhere.
Hey, we could go to the park.
Oh, no, we can't. The cops said they'd shoot us if we go back to the park.
Yeah, and I ain't in no mood to go tonight.
I like death.
Greetings, ghouls, and welcome to Minute 89 of Do You Want to Party, the Movies by Minute podcast for the 1985 groundbreaking horror classic, The Return of the Living Dead. I'm your host, Troy, and this particular minute is going to start with art director Robert Howland and ends with special visual effects Fantasy 2 Film Effects Incorporated. On the upper level of the United Medical Supply warehouse, just outside the steps that lead to the basement, the owner, Bert, pulls back his arm to swing a powerful blow with a newly acquired baseball bat in the nearby distance. The three young punks of Spider, Casey, and Chuck hold their position far away from the open door as the creature known as Tarman stumbles through the archway of the opening, slowly and surely making its way towards the target of Bert. But within a blink of an eye, the wooden weapon held in the older gentleman's hand comes into a solid impact against the creature's head, removing it from the stem of its neck, causing it to drive towards the retreating punks. A guttural scream from the reanimated corpse is cut off once the trio ducks below the suddenly hurling object. Meanwhile, in the front seat of the police cruiser, a civil military-dressed gray-skinned gentleman leans across the front seat, as in his hand he clutches the microphone of the CB as he makes his announcement for additional assistance at his location. Back in the hallway of the Resurrection Funeral Home, a little way away from the foyer and off to the side, Bert and Ernie have a conversation amongst themselves about the situation that has just been brought up. As just a few steps behind them stands Spider, Scuzz, and Tina, freshly from the outside in the pouring rain, having just run through the cemetery outside, looking for solitude and assistance within this building.
God damn! I think things are getting out of hand.
Now, in the embalming room of the Resurrection Funeral Home, a recently unbagged severed arm of the Yellow Man reaches out to grab the leg of Ernie, who, understandably, excitedly yelps out loud at the situation he finds himself in as the hand clamps onto him. He calls out for assistance from the others, and both Bert and Frank rush forward to assist, the fingers gripping the pant leg tightly as Bert tries to pull the limb away from Ernie, causing the man in tracksuit to start to hop backwards on one foot, as the removal of the severed limb causes Bert to have to lift it upright, bringing Ernie's other leg with him. In a sudden sound of tearing material, Ernie unceremoniously tumbles to the ground. Finally, outside of the main office located next to the shipping crate within the warehouse of the Unita Medical Supply warehouse, Bert, Frank, and Freddy gather closely around the still-moving corpse of Yellow Man. All men are in full panic mode as they try to figure out amongst them what is actually happening, and even if they did follow the rules set out to them by the film that they were discussing.
It worked in the movie! Well, it ain't working now, Frank. You mean the movie line?
The shot pauses upon the three men, the two older gentlemen looking to the younger as the voice of Frank echoes out his last remark as the image slowly fades into a background.
It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question.
As the haunting music of SSQ's Tonight plays on, eventually fading into the riffs of the Cramps' Surfin' Dead. So as the credits continue to roll, there's a particular name that needs to be pointed out, and that is the special effects makeup of Bill Munns. The story of which leads to the knowledge that before the production was completed, that Bill Munns would no longer be working on the project. For a further explanation, we're going to refer to two different posts on William Stout's online blog, where he has entries referring to his work in words and images. This can all be found at williamstout.com for more if you want to see more of his stuff. So posted on August 10th, 2021, these are the words of William Stout himself. My first intensely negative encounter on The Return of the Living Dead with the work of makeup man Bill Munns comes after he showed me his version of the first corpse, the first zombie to burst from the grave. Now, along with this, we are accompanying several different illustrations that William Stout has done, and in them he shows two different sort of angles of the creature that he had envisioned of being this groundbreaking creature. While it is a very skeletal figure to begin with, there is a lot of muck and gore hanging off of him, more like one of those early, like, eerie comics and all that sort of thing that would, which is a lot of what the style of William Stout's drawings would be. So it would be very an animated looking character, but again, very still slushy and filled with goop and gore. William Stout goes on to write that it seems pretty clear to me from my drawings just what I wanted the first corpse to look like. I thought Bill was just showing me his zombies mechanics, and that was what he considered camera-ready, quote-unquote, finished art, as the farthest thing from my mind. On the day of the shoot, I discovered to my horror that what Bill showed me, Bill thought was done. A lot of Bill's first corpse was perfectly pristine and clean, with a few signs of this thing that had been even erupted from the grave. Many of its bones and of the skeleton were pure, clean white. I was pissed at the lack of thinking that went into Bill's version of the first corpse. So angry that I didn't even think of sparing some Dan Munn over the thing. My bad. As you see, it got worse. Now we go on to the next post, which is on his blog he lists as posted on August 15th, 2021. One of the first signs that the dead are returning to life in The Return of the Living Dead is what we called the Yellow Man. He was a jaundiced individual hanging inside the Unita Medical Supplies freezer. The frost inside the freezer was actually Christmas tree flocking. Here are some of my first attempts at this design. In the illustration, he basically shows two different images. The first one is of a very a bust of a gentleman that is much more heavier set, very obese and all that. But again, jaundice with the yellow skin, but like very full of flesh on his body. A lot of folds of chins and whatnot, very big jowls and that. Below that is also another drawing of a more svelte looking character, still very trim in compared to the previous one, and again yellow, as the character is known as Yellow Man. William Stout's words carry on. In the film, the Yellow Man comes back to life and pursues Bert. Frank and Freddie join in on capturing the Yellow Man and saw his head off. Thinking they have disabled the Yellow Man, the three stand back. For a well-deserved break, the headless corpse jumps up. However, the chaos reigns until they chop up Yellow Man into trash bags full of wriggling pieces. He then has a whole entire list of a bunch of storyboards, revised versions of this whole entire sequence, which is kind of cool to see, just like images and images, different shot angles that would be used and who's in the different shots and whatnot. Then he goes on to state, here's what Bill Munn's version of the headless Yellow Man looked like. So it's kind of hard to describe without actually seeing the image. But what we have is it's a picture of a performer sitting on one of those director's chairs that actors sit in and all that sort of thing, that style of chair. He is all in yellow, but he is in some sort of rubbery suit where it doesn't look like an actual trim body, but it looks like a oversized yellow wetsuit has been pulled over this performer. Now, to get the effect of the headlessness, Bill Munn has actually built up on the shoulders of this performer. Have you ever seen those cheap headless horseman costumes where the shoulders just have to be these giant things that come up way above the actual person's head and then there's the little neck piece? Well, it's kind of like that, but in a yellow rubbery plastic. And there are 3 holes cut out in like what would be the clavicle area of an actual human chest if you were to scale it properly so that the actor could see through. And it just looks ridiculous. Now back to more of William Stout. So seriously, I couldn't believe it. I promptly demanded a do-over. Unfortunately, after fixing his Yellow Man work, Bill paid little attention to my storyboards and constructed what we needed on the wrong side, opposite to what I had boarded, destroying the scene's visual continuity. Now, this is going to another reference. In the documentary More Brains, The Return to the Living Dead, once the subject matter of the Yellow Man comes up in the documentary, Bill Munns himself says, paraphrasing, after that, they reasonably fired me. So, and the original Tarman suit, designed by William Stout, was also considered too poor in quality and was improved upon during production. The final version, which features a bony, melting, and somewhat cartoonish appearance, was heavily modified to be thin and coated with methyl cellulose for its signature slime effect. The costume was made from latex and black paint. Special effects artist Kenny Myers listed the credits under additional special makeup effects. Replaced Bill Munns and reworked the initial inadequate costume to the final thin and melting look, coated, achieving the oozy appearance. Kenny Myers was also instrumental in redoing the headless Yellow Man gag as well. Now, over on the commentary track with director Dan O'Bannon and production designer William Stout, still talking about the extended amount of people working on the film, Dan O'Bannon adds the fact that it was Stanley Kubrick who kept adding names to the list of his credits when going into technical effects, stating after that it just proliferated. William Stout mentions how Dan O'Bannon had him research images of atrocities that were going to fade in and out between each other over the closing credits instead of the clips from the movie that they actually ended up going with, and how he spent plenty of time in the LA Public Library looking through the pathology section. So, like was said last week, there is no longer any more script to follow or work print comparison to do, so I'm going to be doing a little more detail on some of the performers of our feature. Whereas last week I talked about the veterans, this time we were going to be talking about the fresh actors. Now, to put it out there, I had the greatest of privilege to actually speak to and get involved with this show, a handful of the fantastic cast. And while the majority of the podcast was actually recorded and produced during the 40th anniversary of the movie, I was thankful to get any of them to take part because of their extremely busy schedules. Early in the production, Alan Trotman granted me some of his time for an interview about his career in both acting and puppetry. The recording was originally incorporated into 2 episodes, minute 45 and 46, which was the first appearance of Alan in the Tarman outfit. However, he was gracious enough to return to a second episode where he was my special guest co-host. So for minute 80, which marks the actual final seconds of his performance as Tarman. Alan Trotman was born May 25th, 1955 in Brooklyn, New York. Up next was Tom Matthews, born November 28th, 1958 in Los Angeles, California. And I have to say, I was really excited to get Tom as my special guest co-host for minute 39. Even though he was dealing with a bit of a cold at the time, he was such a fantastic guy, and during the episode, we go into plenty of his acting career. But hearing his stories and about the friendship he built between himself and James Karen was definitely worth listening to. While I had reached out to the entire living cast, and through plenty of back and forth emails, I was happy to get both Beverly Rudolph and John Fillman as special guest co-hosts as well. I did happen to meet Linnea Quigley in person at a conversation last September. And while there wasn't an opportunity to get her on the show, she did record the opening for minute 66, marking the actual return of Trash in the movie. The following episode, minute 67, John Fillman, who was born April 27th in 1960, joined me, and we definitely went into a deep dive, not only into the career of the character of Chuck, but both John's colorful career as an actor and a surfer. And as a Halloween treat, Beverly Rudolph, who was born August 10th, 1964, became a special guest host for minute 73. Again, like Tom and John earlier, we cover her career and her character very thoroughly. So that's just going to leave us with a handful of people to talk about. And as predicted by the credits, we're going to go and chat a little bit about Jewel Shepard, who was born January 3rd, 1957. She's known as being a writer, photographer, and actress. She arrived in California in the early 1980s, and to support herself, she worked as a exotic dancer, as well as doing modeling for car shoots. After a small number of television roles, she broke into film with H.B. Halleck's The Jacker Man from 1982. And then roles in over a dozen B movies followed, including The Return of the Living Dead. And in 1992, she capitalized on her B-girl status by penning Invasion of the B-Girls, a book of interviews with cult actresses. She has also written for such publications as Premiere, Cosmopolitan, Details, and the Associated Press. Her autobiography, If I'm So Famous, How Come Nobody's Heard of Me?, detailing some of the less glamorous aspects of filmmaking and her experiences working in adult entertainment, was published in 1996. Now, as the names go on this list of hopefuls, Miguel Nunez Jr. was the one where there were plenty of back and forth emails. Unfortunately, I sadly dropped the ball on a few occasions on my communication. I would have loved to have gotten his personal perspective of working with Clu Gallagher as the surviving actor, as one of the surviving actors that shared the most screen time with him. Miguel Nunez was born August 11th, 1964, in New York City to an African mother and a Dominican father, and was raised by his grandparents in Wilson, North Carolina. One of his major screen roles was the supporting role of Spider in Return of the Jedi, as well as Dominic Winter in Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan. And his first major starring role was that of Marcus Taylor on the series Tour of Duty from 1987 to 1990, where he played a main cast member for the 3 seasons of the show. He later appeared on the short-lived series My Wildest Dreams, the short-lived show Sparks, and movies such as Juana Man. He also held a recurring role of Zack in the 2nd season of the Friends spin-off Joey, and betrayed DJ in Street Fighter from 1994. Now, to have had the legend that is Linnea Quigley would have been the cherry on top. Mind you, just chatting about her long list of credits alone could be a mini-series unto itself. So Linnea Quigley was born Barbara Linnea Quigley on May 27th, 1958 in Davenport, Iowa. Quigley first pursued her career in the late 70s, shortly after moving to Los Angeles. Quigley got her first acting role in the Charles Band-produced film Fairy Tales in 1978. She continued receiving small parts, mostly in B-movies. Her first bigger part was in the 1981 slasher film Graduation Day, followed with more films such as Savage Streets and Silent Night, Deadly Night, both in 1984. 1985, Quigley appeared in The Return of the Living Dead, playing the teenage punk Trash, which is considered one of her most notable roles and earned her Scream Queen status. Quigley starred in a number of low-budget films following the popularization of home videos, including Creepzoid, Nightmare Sisters, Sorority Babes in the Slime Bowl-rama, Night of the Demons, and Witch Trap. Aside from her acting career, Quigley is also a singer. She formed an all-female band, The Skirts, in the early 1980s, and an author. She wrote the 3 books, The Linnea Quigley Bio and Chainsaw Book, I'm Screaming as Fast as I Can, My Life in B-Movies, and Skin. She's also an animal rights activist and a member of PETA. Linnea is a vegan. After moving to Los Angeles in the late 70s, she switched to a vegetarian diet, first by eliminating red meat and then chicken and fish, and eventually all dairy and all other forms of animals. So that pretty much covers all of the things that we have to say about the major cast of this particular movie. Again, please do yourself a favor and go back and listen to those previously mentioned episodes with the cast members. These are such talented actors and amazing humans, and that shows from the recordings. While I had the advantage of watching them over the Zoom calls, each of their vibrant personalities definitely shine through. So, there you go. So, while I have to, once again, wrap this particular episode up, we are down to our final minute and a bit of the movie. I'm still contemplating whether or not I will stretch the next moment into actually 2 full episodes or just cut my losses and end at a 90th minute, even though minute 91 of the podcast is only about 40 seconds of credits. But I'll make up that decision in the day of, and next episode might be the last one, but there might be one after that. You know what? I might back that up because I believe there's going to be a little extra something that we're going to be adding in about a month's time after the podcast has completed. But more on that in the future. But again, I've got to say a very special thank you for the audience that is still here. We are, like I said, we are at the very end. There is not much more to this that we can discuss. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming along on this ride. It's been a fun time for me. Hopefully it has been for you. I mean, you've been sticking around this long, so I'm glad that some people are enjoying this show as we go. And hopefully sometime in the near future, others will find this and enjoy it just as much as we are now. Here in the 40th anniversary, technically we are coming up on the 41st anniversary of The Return of the Living Dead. Okay, so I got nothing else to say except see you next Wednesday.
You've just been listening to a Planet Geek production of Do You Want to Party? A Movies by Minute podcast of the 1985 The Return of the Living Dead. Please be sure to subscribe, download, comment, share, rate, and review. Be sure to follow us on our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Tumblr, or Letterboxd. Search for Planet Geek Productions. X, former Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, search for Planet Geek Pod. Or send us an email to planetgeekpod@gmail.com. Our closing music is provided by Night Chill. See the show notes for more details. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and farewell, fiends.